Welcome to Lipstick and Legacy, a podcast where your story matters and your journey has purpose. Together, we lift and inspire our communities one story at a time. Welcome, Alexis.
Thank you, Julie. I'm excited to be on here.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from. You're definitely younger than most of my guests that I have, but I truly feel that you have the depth and story of somebody much older. So, can you just give me just a little history about who you are, where you're from?
Yes, so I am from Utah County. I'm from a a big city called Lehi. I've grown up there my whole life. I currently live in Logan, so I moved up to Logan right after graduating high school,
Okay.
and then I served a mission, and now I'm back in Logan.
That is awesome. Okay, so your story really hit home with me. You met my daughter while serving a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I was able to connect with you, and your story kind of shocked me. Can you just tell me a little bit? Let's go back to your childhood. What was that like? What was it like living and growing up in a town in Utah? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I loved where I grew up. I had great parents and I learned a lot from them. I think growing up, I didn't value the gospel a lot. I didn't have a lot of core values and I didn't make a lot of good decisions growing up. And I always felt like there was something missing and I wasn't sure what it was, but I was happy. Like I had a lot of friends. I would go out and do things all the time. Like I thought I had found true joy. I
Mm.
thought that I had found all this happiness. Um, but at around age 16, I started to feel a lump growing inside of me.
So hold on before we go there. So
Mhm.
you're kind of living your life. You're a free spirit teenager. You're living in a very traditional town and a very traditional family. Things are going along just fine. You're just living your best life. You're 16
Yes.
years old and you feel a lump. So let's go there.
Yes. So I start to feel a lump and we weren't sure what it was. I didn't say anything to my parents at first because I was like, oh, it's just like a little lump. But then it started to grow a little bit bigger. And we went to the doctors. We put off going to the doctors for a little bit just because like we were told everything was fine. Went to my regular doctor. He instantly sent me to a gynecologist oncologist.
Hmm.
That's where I got scans and treatments. And they said that the tumor was growing bigger. They weren't sure if it was cancerous though or not. So they kind of put off doing a surgery for me for a bit because they didn't think anything was going to be necessarily wrong. And then afterwards, it started to get a little bit worse. And that's when I had kind of a conversation with my mom. And I remember I was just like sitting in my room after church. She had come in and she said like, "Hey, like I kind of need to tell you something. Like at this point I'm in high school, I'm working. I have like a pretty normal life."
Hmm.
She comes in and lets me know, "Hey, like just we've been doing these scans, like things aren't looking good." Like
So you're going to the doctors, you're
mhm.
going to see specialists at this point. You still don't know it's cancerous at this point.
Yeah.
And you're still just living your life and going
Mhm.
along. So your mom comes in and having teenage girls, I know what that looks like. And you're just kind of there and you're like, and she's like, I've got some news for you.
Yeah.
And what did she tell you at that point?
Yeah. So her and my dad had known for like a couple, maybe like 2 weeks. They had
Oh.
just like kind of kept it from me,
Mm.
which is fine. Like that's okay. But she had come in and let me know, like, hey, like just there's a chance that it's cancerous. We don't know what that's gonna look like for you, whether you'll live, whether you'll die. And she was like, even if you do live, we don't think that we're not sure if you'll ever be able to have children. And that just was so hard, I think, at the age of like 16 and 17, because it felt like I had to make these big life decisions right away.
So what is that at 16, you're worried about, like, your nail polish color and the boy at school and what you're gonna have for lunch. Like, those are your big problems, if you should buy the yellow shirt or the red shirt.
Yeah.
So now your mom and dad come in or your mom comes in, she tells you this news. In that moment, what was the weight of the room? Like, how did that feel for your mom, and why didn't they tell you for a couple weeks? Like, what was their thought process behind that?
Yeah. I think that they were definitely like more nervous about it than I was. I felt like I took it pretty okay cuz I didn't understand cancer. Like I didn't even understand what that entailed. Like
Mhm.
chemotherapy, I knew nothing about it before. So I think the thing that was really hard for me was hearing the kids part cuz you are so young and you want to have a future family, and I think just like having so much insurity just kind of like stressed me out, but I never showed that to my parents. I'm not like a very emotional person.
Mhm.
Um so I remember her telling me that, and I was like, "Okay, like we'll do it. Like we'll just do whatever we need to
Was
do."
she emotional? Was she crying, or was she just kind of matter of fact? What was her disposition?
She she was very, I know that it stressed my mom out a lot. I think it stressed out my parents more than it stressed me out.
Well, they're adults. They
Yeah.
understand things that at that time you weren't understanding. They know what this might look like for you. And for
Yeah.
a 16-year-old girl to be not diagnosed with cancer is very, I would say, rare.
Mhm.
So what was the next step? You get this news, it hits you, but kind of not as hard as your parents at that point. What was the next step?
Yeah, so after that, I continued going to work in school. I had this big tumor, but then we finally got in for surgery. They it was ovarian cancer, is stage 3 ovarian, and my ovary was about the size of this. It was huge. So they took it out. But since they had waited so long, it ended up spreading on my body. So it got to my lymph nodes. And
Wow.
yeah, after that I had to do fertility treatments. So I had to decide how many kids I wanted, but if I wanted to have kids, how many.
Okay, so let's stop there just for a minute. So you go in for your surgery. How many weeks was this between the time you found out and then into your surgery? Like, what was the time frame there?
It was about, I'd say that I had to wait 3 months
Oh,
before I
so
could
it
get
was a
into
while.
surgery. Yeah. So it was a lot of waiting.
And while you were waiting, is this cancer growing? Like, do you feel as though if they would have done it sooner, it wouldn't have grown as much? Like, was there ever any talk about that?
Yeah, if they would have done it sooner, it wouldn't have spread. So I think it's just because we waited so long. I think especially for younger kids, it's put off more
Mm.
because we look so healthy. Nothing could be
Was that
wrong.
an issue when you would go to the doctor initially? Was it like, were they kind of, oh, you're young, you're probably fine? Or did they send you straight? Were they like, oh no, something's going on?
Yeah. My oncologist and gynecologist, they were all great. Like they were super amazing, but I feel like there's definitely like a problem in the medical industry where they just put it off
Because you're young.
because you're young. Yeah.
So then they do the surgery.
Mhm.
And right after the surgery, you start having to worry about or think about fertility, or right before it?
Right after, so they removed my ovary. So
One.
yeah, they
Okay.
removed one ovary. I still have my other ovary. So I started doing fertility treatments. I would give myself like 3 shots a day. And then after that, I had a surgery where they put me under. They took my eggs out. They're stored at Utah University, frozen in a
Oh.
fridge. So they did that. And then a little bit after that, um, we started to talk about chemotherapy because they needed to get me on
So let's stop there
chemotherapy.
again. So you go into these, these are very adult problems, like thinking about fertility, like you're 16 years old, like
Yeah.
what in the world, right?
Hmm.
And you have to make decisions that are going to affect your life.
Hmm.
And what is that like going into a surgery to harvest your eggs, something that most women deal with much later in life? What does that look like for a 16-year-old girl?
It was very interesting because there was a point where I was a little bit upset. Like, am I really having to worry about this at this age? And there's not like even a guarantee. Like there is a guarantee that it'll work, or like I might not even need that. But it was just very like it was a world that I didn't even expect to be in,
Mhm.
and I don't think any kid should ever have to really even experience that because it's just like you're having to make all these big decisions. But at the same time, I'm grateful that I had that option.
Yeah, well, with modern medicine, I mean, I don't even know how many years ago, but probably not that long ago, that wouldn't have been an option for somebody like you. So you harvest your eggs, you go through these fertility treatments, harvest your eggs, then what happens?
After that, we start talking about oncologists. I was 17 at this point, going on 18 the next year. So we were trying to figure out if I'd go to the Huntsman, or I think it was the Huntsman, but like a more adult oncologist,
Or a pediatric?
yeah, or primary children's.
Mm.
So we went with primary children's, which was super great. It was way better. Like, it's so much harder in adult hospitals. So I got my oncologist. We started talking about chemotherapy. Whole new world for me too. Like I didn't know what that would entail. I thought I'd be able to keep my hair too. So I remember just sitting there, and that was my main concern at that point. Was
Well,
like,
as a
yeah,
teenage girl or
yeah.
even as a woman, I mean, adult women fear that, right?
Uh-huh.
So you're starting to talk about chemotherapy. What year of high school were you when this started? And then what year of high school were you when like you started chemo?
This all was my junior year.
Junior year. So
Hmm.
what did that look like for you with friends? What did it look like for you? Were they supportive? Did they just kind of forget about you? Like, how did that
Hmm.
feel? Because social issues, social acceptance is such a huge part of being a teenage girl. So
Hmm.
tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I had really great friends. I felt like I had a lot of friends though that were maybe steering me on a path that wasn't good. So at that point in time, I felt like I had kind of shut people out because I had all my friends, we had school dances, we were dating people, and it was just like so much fun. But then I get to a point where I'm doing chemotherapy, like none of that was fun to me anymore. And like I felt like no one understood because I had,
Nobody did.
yeah, no
Who
one
who would
understood.
understand that at your
Yeah.
age?
Hmm. So that was really hard on me mentally. Is yeah, I had like people come and be like, "I'm so sorry like for what you're going through." But it was just so hard cuz I was like, I feel like my life is ruined. Like I don't even know what this is going to do. Like am I going to be the same after this? Um so that was really, I felt like I did shut a lot of people out just cuz I was like no one really got it or understood, especially at that age. No one really knows what's
Mhm.
going on.
Did you feel lonely during that time?
Mm-hmm. I did feel very lonely. Um, Even like while doing chemotherapy, I was still hanging out with people. I was still working.
Oh.
Um, when I wasn't in the hospital, I was at my job.
Were you sick from it? Like, how long was chemotherapy? How many times a week? What did that look like for you?
It was a couple of months. I would go in for a week and then I'd take a break. And I would have 3 chemotherapies a day.
Mm.
So, and yeah, I'd say chemotherapy was really, really hard because I remember going through it. I remember things here and there, but I remember just like telling my mom, I was like, if I ever got cancer again, I would not do chemotherapy.
Because it was so hard.
Mm-hmm.
Just physically hard, like on your body, like tiring or painful? Explain it.
Yeah, so I had the 3 a day. I had at this point lost all my hair. My lashes and eyebrows were gone. And I would just lay in a bed. They'd pump in the chemotherapy. My skin was dark. Like you would wipe my skin and you could just feel the chemotherapy like seeping in my skin. So you would put a rag on me, wipe me, and it would be brown just because of the liquid that they pump inside of
Like
you.
physically brown on a towel?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
From
like
the
color.
liquid. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. And I was taking a medicine so I wouldn't lose my hearing. That was worse than all of the chemotherapy.
really?
Yeah,
So
I
that's a side effect of the chemo, it can be.
mhm. Yeah, they said that my hearing was at risk, my lungs, and my kidneys. So I had to take medications to protect them.
What was it like the first time you noticed that you were losing your hair? Like, what did that feel like? Do you remember that moment?
Mhm. Um, I was on a break from chemotherapy and I was at my job and I was working. At this point, strands of hair started to come out, but I was like, I'm not gonna shave my head until there's like a big noticeable difference. Um, but I remember waking up one morning and the sides were gone. They had fallen out
Was
while
it,
I
like,
was
on your
asleep.
pillow?
Yeah, it was just on my pillow. There was hair everywhere.
Oh, god.
So I, at this point, I was like, oh, like, mom, like, we need to go and buy a wig. So we went to the store. That was really hard. She was crying the whole time. It
Were
made
you
me cry
emotional
too.
when you saw your hair on the pillow? Did you
Yeah.
cry or were you like, "Eh"? Like, how
Yeah.
did you like, what was your response to that?
Yeah. Like, once again, I'm not a very emotional person,
Mhm.
but I remember just like locking myself in my room for a day and I was like, okay, I just need to have some time to myself. And we got, yeah, we got a wig and then later that day, we shaved my head because at this point I would just pull anywhere and all of my hair was coming out.
Mm,
So that was that was the most like socially hard part, but not physically,
mhm,
because I felt like there was a lot of emotional problems that came along after chemo, um, and not during.
can you describe some of those, problems that came for you?
Mhm. Yeah, so I got done with treatment and even after that I was still super sick for a while and at that point I going through chemotherapy I had a lot of thoughts like it would have just been easier if I just would have died cuz I my body was really weak. I had laid in a bed for
Mm,
a couple of months and I wasn't sure if I'd like ever be physically normal again either cuz during chemotherapy I had kind of lost the ability to read and write and talk. It was really hard for me. And it was really hard for me coming out of that.
is
Like
that from the treatment?
mhm. Like I just felt like a lot slower, like there was just a lot going on in my body. And then um it was actually like my first day back to school. Um I was still on a lot of chemotherapy drugs. And my mom was like, "Oh, let's get you to school." Was not thinking. First day back to school, my senior year, I crashed my car into a barrier going 80 miles an hour because I was just on so many medications and we didn't even think of that. So then I was out of school even longer and I got out
So
of
you kind of
school.
just had one huge thing after the next, one trauma
Yeah.
after the next.
Mhm.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah.
So going to school that day probably wasn't the
It
best
was not a
idea,
good
but you're
decision. Yeah.
also like, as a mother, I can understand,
Mhm.
like, let's carry on, get back to school, start living your life. Okay, you're on your medications, you've been on them, but like, you need to keep moving. And when you see
Yeah.
your kids not moving forward, you feel like as a parent, it's like, oh shoot, like she needs to go, she needs to go. And so I can really understand and relate in that sense, as a mother, that I would probably have pushed in that way as well, thinking
Yeah.
it was for your benefit,
Oh yeah.
because you don't know what to do in
Yeah.
these situations.
Exactly. Yeah, she was awesome about it. So, in all honesty, it was just a blank on our part. And so then I was out of school even longer because I had that car accident. I
Were you
wasn't too
hurt in that
hurt.
accident or
I still had a port in me, so we had to go to the ER because it's just like this device that they plug in. That's where they put my chemotherapy. Um, so after that, like I went to the ER, like it was a miracle I was fine. Like I just had some bruises on my
Mhm.
arms and on my body.
So when you had your first surgery, you had showed me the other day a photograph of the tumor that they took out, and it was big. It was like half a foot. I mean, it was
Hmm.
6 inches easily.
Yeah.
Did they ever say, like, does cancer, I think we talk a lot about cancer, but we don't really know if you haven't had it. Like, there's so many different kinds, and
Mhm.
there's awareness, but there's like not education, if that
Mhm.
makes sense. So everybody's talking about it, but nobody's educating you on it,
Yeah.
right? So was there ever any talk about like why or how or where this came from being as young as you are? It just was kind of a thing that just happened?
Yeah, they have no idea where it came from. So, it's not genetic either. It's just something that kind of just popped up. Cells divided and multiplied
Mhm.
and created the tumor. But there was no real reason to know how it came to be. There we still have no idea.
And what is the name? What type of cancer? What was the name of the cancer?
It was stage 3 germ cell ovarian cancer.
Okay. And how
Mhm.
common is that type of cancer in anybody at any age? Do you
It's very rare. So they had told me they didn't think it was cancer because it's super rare. Like I was at the gynecologist oncologist and I was there with like 70, 80-year-old woman. I was the only young kid there. There's no
wow.
one else. So
So you try to go back to school. You've at this point after chemo, are you starting to recover? You've had this accident. Like, does your hair start coming back? Do they
mhm.
retest you for reoccurrence? How does
Mhm.
that work? And what does that look like for you?
Yeah. So I I would get tested every 3 months. It took a while for my hair to grow back. So I would wear wigs. I didn't tell a lot of people, like at my school or even a lot of people, like what was going on. Because I don't like to feel like pity from other people, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. Um, but yeah, I would go and get checkups done. I would go um, at the very end of my senior year. I went a couple times, but it was just a seminary. Like I had graduated early. And even then, it was, I felt like I was just kind of moving along. My body was super weak and frail, and it just took a little bit of time for me to like fully
Mhm.
get back into life.
After surviving cancer, what shifted inside of you?
Something that really helped me is it gave me a very humbling perspective on life. I think often when we go through trials, you can either look at it and say, like, this is the worst thing ever. Like, why is this happening to me? Or you can change it and learn from it. Because for me, I was very, for example, like casual about my faith before I had cancer. I was very casual about my relationship with God. I wasn't doing the little things. I never read my scriptures. I never prayed. Um, and just going through that, I felt like I had everything taken away from me. Because I know you've had trials too. You just feel stripped of everything and you
Mhm.
just feel so vulnerable. So I think that all happening, it took me some time, but it made me think of my savior. It made me think of, okay, like if I were to die, like where would I be
Because
going?
that was a real realization for you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was at your door in a sense at that
Yeah.
young age. Like that's incredible that
Mm-hmm.
somebody your age is experiencing something like that. It says that you were able to connect with other cancer survivors.
Mm-hmm.
How did you connect with them? Were you connecting with older people, with kids your age? What type of service did you do through that, and growth and support happened because of that?
Yeah. I feel like I've been able to meet a lot of people who have either been diagnosed with cancer. Um, the one that I can think of most recently is I had gone home from my mission and I had a friend named Q, and Q was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And it's just very hard because I talk to other patients and it's just very difficult because it's such a unique thing you go through that people don't understand. Um, but I was able to talk to Q and his wife before he passed away.
Mm.
And I've just had lots of opportunities. I helped with Make a Wish as well. We did a fundraiser at my school for
Oh,
kids
wow.
with diseases. So that was really cool. And it's just given me a different perspective on what people go through in different trials.
So in our church culture, there's boys and girls, young men and young women serve missions. They're 18 months for young women and 24 months for young men. What made you decide that you wanted to serve a mission over going to college, or why did you feel like that was of greater purpose for you?
Mhm. It came from cancer, actually, because I realized right after I had gone through all of that, I knew that God had given me that second chance of life.
Mm.
Like, I had no doubt in my mind, and I knew that I had to serve a mission. I didn't know. I had gone to church. I grew up in Utah.
And
My
if
parents were
people don't
great.
know, Utah is kind of the central hub for Latter-day Saints. I mean, that's
Mhm.
where they pilgrimaged to build this kind of new land, and it's just very dense in members of our religion. So sometimes when you grow up in a culture that's really surrounding and all all involved, it's like people are kind of like, yeah, we're all in it, we're all doing it. You get a little, loosey goosey,
Yeah.
I guess. So tell me a little bit about that.
Mhm. I Yeah, I was very casual about it growing up. I thought I had true joy because I had my friends. I felt like I had everything, but then that was all stripped. And then I realized I had to find a different purpose in life. So
Because
I,
all those friends just kind of when you're going through all these hard adult things,
yeah,
they go to the mall, they start, all their schooling and things as you age up, and those friends go away and you realize you're just kind of stuck with, I mean, you're not stuck with, but your family and yourself are basically who's always left, right?
yeah,
And so you had to find your purpose.
exactly. So right after all of that, I remember thinking, like, I really need to figure out my relationship with Jesus Christ. So I decided to put in my mission papers, not knowing what I would do or not knowing a lot about the gospel. I hadn't really read the scriptures that much
Mhm.
growing up. But I felt very prompted and inspired to go and serve a mission. And in that way, it was a gift that I could give back.
Was there a moment on your mission, one specific, that you realized this is what I was supposed to do? This is what I was saved for? Is there a moment that you remember?
Yeah, I think it was very early on in my mission that I just found so much joy from the gospel. Like I loved my mission. I loved everything that I did out there. And it was just being able to serve and love other people and make connections with others that made me find true joy. Cuz I thought I had that true joy before cancer with my friends and with all these fun things I was doing. But then I found out, like, I have so much more, like 10 times, a million times more joy as a missionary, serving others, helping others
Mhm.
learn about Jesus Christ, that I think it just made it solidify in my head. Like, this is the purpose of life. This is what I should be doing. I should be focused on others, not on myself.
What did serving others teach you about love?
It taught me that I'd say my biggest example is Jesus Christ. It taught me that, we're all children of God. We all deserve to be loved. And we might have difficult situations with other people. We might be in a very unfair situation with other people. But just serving and focusing on others makes life so much easier and brings you so much joy. And it was just such a blessing every day. Like, I've never felt so much joy. Like, I think the key to joy is just focusing on others.
Right, forgetting yourself and really
Mhm.
focusing on others. And I
Yeah.
really do believe, sometimes we think that service has to be a grand gesture, that is going to take all this time or money or effort. And it can just be right where you are. It can be in the line at the grocery store, a smile, a word of encouragement, a few dollars to somebody who's really down and out. And I think that sometimes we overlook those small and simple acts of kindness, that that's really the way to change our communities and the world around us.
Mhm.
If you could go back to your younger self, which isn't that far back, a girl in the hospital feeling sick, what would you tell that girl?
I would tell her that everything was going to be all right, that she didn't have to worry about all of the little things in life, and that all she had to do was focus on Christ and focus on those around her and the relationship she had. Because I felt like I was able to find true joy after that. And having cancer was the biggest blessing in my life. As
And that's
crazy as
people
that is to
listening must
say.
be like, that is insane, right?
Like,
Why
then
is our
why?
hardest things, our biggest trials, why are they the biggest blessings too? Why do you think
Yeah.
that is?
I think that trials gives us an opportunity to grow. And I think that going through hard things gives us different perspectives too. And I honestly think that some of the best people go through the biggest trials because it helps you realize and it helps you realize the feelings of others.
Mhm.
Because I feel like we all need to go through something hard to be able to understand why we're here, what our purpose is, or even bring us closer to God. I feel like we all have to have those little moments.
I really appreciate you sharing your story because sometimes we go through hard things and we keep them to ourselves. And I always think, why would I have been put through this hard thing if I'm not going to help somebody else through their hard thing because of my new perspective, my newfound understanding of somebody's pain. And so I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. I have one question I always ask every guest. What do you want your legacy to be?
I want my legacy to be someone who cares and someone who has grown. Because I feel like there's just so many things that I've messed up on in life. And I feel like we just have so much to give back to others.
Mm.
And I feel like if we're not finding ways to serve and love others or create relationships, there's no point to this life. I feel like that's what it's all about. And yeah, I really just want to be someone who people knows cares about them.
It's beautiful. I'm so grateful you were given another chance at life in a sense that you're here with me. I cannot wait to see the things that you do and accomplish in this life and the gifts you give to others by sharing your story. So, Alexis, thank you for coming on to Lipstick and Legacy. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.